this video is not monetized. So if you're seeing ads, you're being scammed.
What I am saying about Jon Jones is undebatable. Undebatable what this guy has accomplished in his career, right? And if he beats Stipe and he comes out and fights Tom Aspinall and beats him, it's already undeniable. Nobody, don't care how much you dislike Jon Jones for what he's done or what he's done. This isn't about personally who is Jon Jones and do you like him. We're talking about the baddest dude to ever walk the face of the earth in combat sports. Already, if he goes out and beats Tom Aspinall, he cements his legacy as the greatest fighter of all time. It's just a whole nother level. I mean, that's why I think this is the problem with the conversation that we're having here and why people aren't giving Jon Jones the respect for pound. This fucking guy destroyed the best heavyweight in the division. Easily made it look like nothing. Jon Jones is the pound for pound best fighter in the world and the greatest fighter fucking ever. Period. End of story.
Well, I don't disagree with that, but he hasn't fought in a long time. But in Stipe or in a longer time,
he got hurt.
I get it. I'm not criticizing.
He was trying to fight.
I'm just saying, yeah, no.
Yeah, well, it's not like he's just fucking sitting around and doesn't want to fight. The guy came to fight. It's the first injury he's ever had. And listen to me, I'm not defending Jon Jones. You know what I mean? Jon Jones has been one of my biggest fucking headaches in the entire time that I've been in this company, right? And you know, the guy hasn't been the model, fighter in the company. No matter what you think of Jon Jones, he's the fucking best ever, and he's the pound for pound best fighter in the world. And he's the pound for pound best fighter in the world.
Yeah. Well, except that he hasn't fought in the last year, so he's not.
Because he got hurt. He got injured.
But if you don't,
if you were coming into a fight and you fucking got hurt, that means you're not the pound for pound best fighter in the world anymore? How does that even make sense? It doesn't make sense.
When he fights,
right? If he was sitting out and fucking getting arrested and running around or whatever, and you're like, well, Jon Jones is inactive, I'd say, maybe you're right. But as an educated adult who knows the fight business, you cannot deny that while Jon Jones is active, he is the greatest fighter in the world.
Did I not say that?
Yes. I don't know what you're arguing about here. I don't even know how we're in this conversation. Where are the helicopters when you need them?
Because you're screaming and hollering.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's always felt like you got the most dominant champion in UFC history. Some people thought he lost to Dominic Reyes. So that to me is a fight that probably should happen again.
Listen, the most amazing thing about Jon Jones, and listen, there's no debate. Jon Jones is the GOAT. Jon Jones is the greatest to ever do it. There's no debate about it. If you look at what the guy has accomplished and what he was doing while he accomplished these things, you know what I mean? It's not like the guy was being good to himself and training hardcore. And what's even crazier about the Jon Jones story is you think of like this. Look at what he's accomplished. What's even crazier, imagine what he could have accomplished had he been doing the right thing the whole time, what Jon Jones could have been. And I'm saying that, and he's never lost a fight. Yeah. You know? You can say, oh, well, people think that he beat him. People think that he beat him. He didn't beat him. The three people that matter said he didn't.
Yeah.
You know? And you can hate our judging all the time. I bitch about our judging. It happens, and it's going to happen. It's never going to be perfect. But the three people that sit ringside all agree that Jon Jones has never lost a fight. I can tell. Listen, when we were talking about Francis earlier, right? I have zero animosity toward Francis. Francis was out of my world long time ago. That guy over there and Mick are another story. It's a long story. That dude did everything he could in his power to make Jon Jones versus Francis. The fight did not happen, and let me tell you what, it wasn't because of Jon Jones. So, Jon is a very unique individual to deal with. Jon Jones will fight everybody. Jon Jones was absolutely positive. He wanted Francis. You saw what happened with Cyril Gahn. He
he will tell you, like he told us, that he would do the same thing to Francis Ngannou. He wanted that fight so bad. And for anybody who thinks, I know the whole internet, oh, John Jones, he's fucking, you know, that I'm up John Jones' ass. These are fucking facts. Facts. And since everybody has been such douchebags about this, I'm coming out with a nice little punch in the face for all you fuckers that think that John Jones isn't the greatest of all time. Dislike him, whatever your beef is with John Jones, knock yourself out. There is no way in hell that John Jones doesn't want to fight Aspinall. So that I guarantee you.
So with that being said, say John Jones gets past Stipe and he wants a bigger contract.
John Jones is doing John Jones right now. That's what he does. You know what I mean? That's what he does. There is nobody that we've ever dealt with that, when I tell you, is not afraid to fight anybody. It's John Jones. And I just told her, I believe John Jones Aspinall happens if he beats Stipe.
So then when you see a video like him at the club leading up to a fight, do you get upset seeing that?
Or is it part of the warfare?
I think he trusts
at the end of the day,
warfare.
I'm at a place right now with like the Conor McGregors and the John Joneses where, you know, they've sort of laid the foundation of their legacy and what they have, and they've made a shitload of money. And it's at the point now where when these guys do show up and fight, it's fun. It's fun when they show up and fight. But the greatest fight, listen, I'm going to say it right here, right now, the greatest fighter to ever live, ever, is fucking John Jones. When you look at John Jones has never lost a fight.
UFC and boxing, or just UFC?
Ever.
Wow.
Because when you really think about fighting, put two guys in a room and who fucking comes out? John Jones walks out of that fucking room every time. And, you know, it's almost like, you know, when you see John on camera, and if you were in here talking to John Jones, it's almost uncomfortable for him to do this shit. But John Jones beats the fuck out of people.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about was like, was Gone, you know, he made Gone not look very good. And Cyril gets out wrestled by Francis, now comes in this fight. Do you think Cyril needs to kind of go back to the drawing board and kind of take a look at what he's doing? Obviously a great athlete, but maybe hasn't gotten all the pieces together that he needs to compete against these kind of guys?
Well, the Francis fight, if he doesn't go for the heel hook, he wins that fight. I mean, he made one silly mistake, you know, out of the 5 rounds. Tonight, to even compare Francis Ngannou or Cyril Gane to John Jones, you can't even compare him to this guy. He went in there and finished. I don't know how you got. I still can't fucking believe what I saw. How easy and how fast and how simple he made that look. It's still blowing my mind. So it's hard to even talk about him in any other heavyweights.
Is Habib the greatest?
Greatest of all time is John Jones.
John Jones. John Jones.
John Jones is undefeated. Habib was undefeated too, but I would have liked to have seen Habib do more. John Jones has been around forever. He's fought everybody in the light heavyweight division. Now he's in the heavyweight division, beating guys like, take 3 years off. Ali never looked the same after 3 years. He took 3 years off. John Jones went in and made Cyril Gane look like he'd never fought in his life, who, you know, I mean, Jones is the greatest ever.
Fighting, just his fight IQ. I'm curious, like, where do you rank him in this pantheon of lightweights that we've seen over the years?
Yeah, I think he's, you know, one of the greatest of all time. I think he's incredible. I don't think he's the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. For anybody to call Islam the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world when John Jones is still fighting is nuts and shouldn't be ranking in the pound-for-pound or doing any of the rankings ever, if that's what you really think. John Jones has never lost a fight ever. He's fought all the baddest dudes in the world. And then when you think about what pound-for-pound rankings really mean, he moved it up to heavyweight and destroyed the best guy in the world. As long as John Jones is still fighting, active, and in the rankings, yeah, nobody's pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. Because we did everything in our power to try to make that John Jones fight, and it is what it is.
He said that, now I'm just going by what he said. Right. He said the UFC, I'm assuming if the UFC, that's you, said John Jones was afraid of him. Do you believe John Jones was afraid of Francis?
Not only is John Jones not afraid of Francis,
John Jones is the baddest fighter to ever live, ever, in any combat sport. If you look at John Jones is undefeated in the UFC, right? He's got one loss on his record. He lost to Steve Mazzagatti. Do you know who that is?
I don't.
He's the worst referee to ever fucking ref any fight.
Oh, Big Steve, he's not in it.
Steve Mazzagatti. No, you're thinking of the other guy. No, this
Big
is
John.
Steve Mazzagatti. This is a guy that should have never, ever been a referee in combat sports, okay? It was during a period when the Athletic Commission was at its worst. And John Jones did not lose that fight. John Jones destroyed the guy that he fought in that fight. And this guy fucked the fight up. John Jones is undefeated, never lost, and he went through murderer's row.
Ridiculous question, but who's in the conversation for the greatest of all time?
John Jones.
So you've talked about John Jones, but what are the metrics involved here?
He's never been beat. He destroyed everybody at light heavyweight, which at the time was the toughest weight class in the company, in the sport. And then he moved up to heavyweight, won easily at heavyweight. And when you look at a guy and you look at what he was doing outside the octagon at the same time, which shouldn't be part of it, shouldn't be part of the equation. But when you do, wow. John Jones, there's no debate. Nobody can debate who's the greatest of all time. It's absolutely positively John Jones. He's never lost. No, he's never been beat in the octagon ever.
Fight John Jones, and many who believe, including me, that he's the best of all time, you know, for the heavyweight championship. And John Jones has been willing and ready and able to fight anybody. He didn't care who it was. Could have been anybody in the heavyweight division. He was ready to go. And Francis, we offered Francis a deal that would have made him the highest paid heavyweight in the history of the company. More than Lesnar, more than anybody. And he turned the deal down.
Did this just come down to a dollar figure? I mean, or was it like other things, like
No.
I want a bigger portion of pay-per-view?
No, I think that you're going to fight arguably the greatest fighter of all time. You'd be the highest paid heavyweight ever in UFC history. Or you think there's more money out there to fight somebody who isn't the greatest of all time, somebody who is a lesser opponent.
If you could choose one person in history, say modern history, last 100 years, to fight literally for your life, who would it be?
Oh, God. You know, I'm a big Ali fan. He was so iconic, and he changed so many things in the world and culture and you know, as far as racism and so many different things go. Ali was such a massive figure in life, you know, not just boxing. Was he the greatest ever? He was one of the greatest humans ever. That's a fact.
But that's not the question.
As far as
he did lose 3 times.
I know. You got me on this one. I mean, John Jones, who's in the UFC still, has never been beat.
I know.
This guy has beat everybody. And when you talk about real fighting, you know, when you talk about who the baddest man is on the planet is, when you talk about that, the real definition of what that means, you throw 2 guys in a room and who comes out?
Yeah.
Okay? That's the baddest man on the planet. And it is hard to not say that John Jones is that guy right now.
I'll tell you who I would take. I would take Tyson before he went into prison, Mike Tyson. I thought for those
100%, but
for those 3
Tyson
years.
doesn't know the ground game. Tyson can't grapple. Tyson's hanging over here. His quote is on the wall over here. Nobody loves Mike Tyson more than I do, believe me. But when you talk about putting 2 guys in a room, who comes out? John Jones has the tools to beat everybody. I can tell. Listen, when we were talking about Francis earlier, right? I have 0 animosity toward Francis. Francis was out of my world long time ago. That guy over there and Mick are another story. It's a long story. That dude did everything he could in his power to make John Jones versus Francis. The fight did not happen, and let me tell you what, it wasn't because of John Jones. So John is a very unique individual to deal with. John Jones will fight everybody. John Jones was absolutely positive. He wanted Francis. You saw what happened with Cyril Gane. He will tell you, like he told us, that he would do the same thing to Francis Ngannou. He wanted that fight so bad. And for anybody who thinks, I know the whole internet, oh, John Jones, he's fucking, that I'm up John Jones' ass. These are fucking facts. Facts. And since everybody has been such douchebags about this, I'm coming out with a nice little punch in the face for all you fuckers that think that John Jones isn't the greatest of all time. Dislike him, whatever your beef is with John Jones, knock yourself out. There is no way in hell that John Jones doesn't want to fight Aspinall.
So
that I guarantee you.
So with that being said, say John Jones gets past Stipe and he wants a bigger contract.
John Jones is doing John Jones right now. That's what he does. You know what I mean? That's what he does. There is nobody that we've ever dealt with that, when I tell you, is not afraid to fight anybody. It's John Jones. And I just told her, I believe John Jones Aspinall happens if he beats Stipe.
Well, let me say this to you, because I sent you the video that I did after UFC 303, so I know you know what I'm going to ask you. But some people, didn't see that, and I know an interview with you, a lot more people are going to watch. And my argument was, hey, I agree with you. I think Jones is the greatest fighter of all time, no doubt. And if he had a fight, I have a rule when I say, if you haven't fought in a year, unless you have a fight scheduled, I don't include you in pound for pound, because it's for active guys. The minute John fights, he goes back into the list, right? But given that he's not fighting, is that fair where other guys are going out there and competing?
John Jones is ranked number 3 pound for pound in the world.
Fighting the UFC.
Most fucking ridiculous, embarrassing, stupid, know nothing about fucking fighting ranking of all fucking time. John Jones is still an active fighter. He beat Cyril Gane. He got injured. He was supposed to fight. He's going to fight again in November. John Jones is the number 1 pound for pound fighter in the world, period, end of story. Whoever, whether you want to call, Islam, Pereira, number 2, number 3, all good. To have anybody above John Jones right now just goes to show that you know absolutely fucking nothing about combat sports and fighting. Number 1. Number 2, the other thing about John Jones, when you talk about inactivity, any fighter in the history of fighting, including the god, who you consider a god and I consider a god, Muhammad Ali, was never the same again after his 3-year layoff, right? And Muhammad Ali wasn't doing bad things to himself,
right,
like John Jones was.
Yeah.
And John Jones comes back and looks even better. It's undebatable. It's undebatable. Anybody who even tries to debate this with me, you're just hating on John Jones and you don't like him as a person. And I get it, but it's not about whether you like him or don't like him or whatever. It's about based on facts and what he's done in his career.
And I think you kind of alluded to what your pound for pound rankings still look like. I know we talked about it in Jersey, but where does Alex fit in, and what do you think he would have to do if he goes to heavyweight and gets that 3rd belt? Is he number 1 then?
You're not wrong. He's another guy that has moved up and is willing to move up to heavyweight. So for all those that don't know what the pound for pound means, that's what it means. Guys like that. But still, as long as John Jones is still in the conversation and talking, John Jones has never lost. He's never lost a fight. And like I say, the most amazing thing about John Jones, you can say whatever you want about him, his lifestyle outside the octagon, it's not like this guy was, checking, had the greatest nutritionists and was, it's quite the opposite of what happened with John Jones outside the octagon, and he's never lost a fight.
Will we ever see John Jones versus Alex Pereira?
Possibility. I mean, Rogan is pushing me right now to try to make that fight. It's just, guys, let me explain something to you. John Jones is a whole nother. I consider John Jones the greatest combat fighter of all time. When you talk about the Ali's and the this and the that.
Oh, and that, wow.
And let me tell you what, I got Ali's picture hung everywhere. I love Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
I love Mike Tyson. John Jones is the nastiest dude ever in the history. And I always say this about John's got a dark side to him, man. John's got like those dogs that'll rip your arms apart and do all that. He shoots guns. John Jones is a killer in every way that you can be. When the stuff was going on during COVID and there was riots and people were spray painting, John Jones like went into town and was taking spray cans out of people's hands and slapping them and saying, "Go home. You're not up my town." And like, I mean, this John Jones is, you know.
My follow-up question was going to be, Shaq at the peak of his powers. I've heard the way you speak of John Jones.
No.
How would that have gone?
Not good.
Then he goes out for 3 years, right? Sits out for 3 years, comes back and beats Cyril Gane. Like that, easily. In my opinion, he does the same thing to Francis.
What?
100%. Does the same thing to Francis. John Jones, Francis didn't want to fight John Jones. John Jones is the scariest, most badass fighter of all time. John Jones has his issues outside
They're
of the
documented.
octagon, which actually makes it even more impressive.
Right.
When you think about the lifestyle this guy was living and doing this to the best fighters in the world. And John Jones is one of those guys that won't truly be appreciated until he's gone.
For the heavyweight championship of the world, John Jones, the greatest mixed martial artist of all time.
So that's one of the metrics, like pure sheer dominance. But there's others, right? Losing sometimes is a catalyst for greatness.
I don't disagree. But when you've never lost, right?
Yeah.
It's this, you've never lost. We've never found somebody. And all the other thing is that you have to factor in too is longevity.
Mm-hmm.
How long because sometimes with a lot of these guys, the sport passes them by. You get younger guys that are faster, this, that, and the sport evolves. Nobody's been able to beat John Jones. Yeah.
Just to go back to Islam, he's now on a 14-fight winning streak, which is the third longest in history behind Anderson Silva and Usman. What would it take for him to surpass John Jones in your mind for that pound-for-pound number one?
I mean, when you think about what pound for pound really means, right? He fought Volkanovski, who's a weight class lower than him. John Jones beat everybody at light heavyweight, then beat the best heavyweight in the division like it was nothing at a higher weight class.
So, I mean,
John Jones is absolutely positively the pound for pound best fighter in the world, probably the greatest fighter of all time in any sport. When you talk about who's the baddest dude in the world, you put two guys in a room and who walks out, John Jones walks out of the fucking room every time. No question about it.
Joe Rogan, you just said always kind of hit you up about the John Jones-Pereira fight. Is that going to happen or what?
No.
Okay.
See, that was easy. That was quick.
Boom.
Have you seen the internet reaction to the obviously pound for pound conversation in you and John Jones? And once again, as a friend of the Jones family, I agree with everything you say. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, everybody on the internet's stupid. So anybody who thinks John Jones isn't the pound for pound best fighter in the world should never be discussing fighting ever.
Boom.
Period. End of story.
Before I let you go, there's a meme going on right now. It's with you, and I just want to see if your opinion still stands. Who is the best UFC fighter? Your personal favorite? I'm just curious.
Well, what do you mean best? The best ever, or my favorite? Somebody that I like personally.
Yeah, true. I guess that's two different questions. Pound for pound, who's the best fighter?
The best fighter ever is John Jones, hands down, no doubt about it, no debating.
So you think if John Jones is in a room with any other fighter, he's the one pound for pound making it out?
Yeah, 100%. You put anybody in the room with John Jones, he walks out every time.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess you're right.
Tom Aspinall, 1 minute, got him out of there. I mean, kind of different from the main event, right? Just came in there and blew him off. Do you think that John Jones fight is getting bigger and bigger?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, there's no doubt. Whoever wins the fight between John Jones and Stipe,
is a great fight for Aspinall.
Have you spoke to either of those two about that? Because I know both of them have said maybe this is their last one. Have you spoke to either of them to get their temperature?
It doesn't even matter. Whatever's going to happen when they fight is going to happen, and we'll go from there. But as fans, we can all say, ooh, that's a fun fight, no matter who wins.
Speaking of John Jones, the 12-6 elbow rule has been overturned, and there's some talk about he wanted his loss to Matt Hamill overturned. Is that something you could even look into, and is that something you would like to see?
I've been trying to do that since it happened.
So, yeah.
I think I wanted it more than he did. So it hasn't worked out too well, though. But, yeah, I've been fighting for that for a long time. You had an incompetent referee, a guy who we can all agree now, maybe I sounded like, an asshole back in the day, but now we can all look back and 100% say that a guy that was completely incompetent at a time when the Nevada State Athletic Commission was at its weakest, the guy who was running it was a zero. Mazzagatti should have never been in there, and the list goes on and on. And that thing should have been and should be overturned, and I've been fighting for it for years.
He could go down as the greatest ever.
Has he frustrated you as much as anyone you've ever dealt with?
The most of anybody I've ever dealt with. He's so talented. When you have a guy that's so incredibly gifted, and there's so many big fights out there for him, and at one point in his career, he had so many endorsements, and just the money he had coming in from endorsements was unbelievable. And yeah, I love the sport of fighting so much, and I love watching guys who are that talented, and to have been able to see John Jones perform the way that he could have really sucks.
I'm telling you right now, when you talk about who the baddest man on the planet is, two guys get locked in a room, who's walking out? It's fucking John Jones all day, every time.
Did you know when you first met him, did you know he had these type of capabilities?
Not really. It was when we just started seeing him fight and how he was destroying people at such a young age, and what he was doing to guys that were looked at as, wow, this guy's the,
And he's running through them. It's not...
For anybody to even try to say John Jones wouldn't fight what makes John Jones even scarier is when you put John Jones in front of a camera and he tries to be normal.
Yes.
And he tries to talk to there is a dark side to John Jones. I mean, that's just a fact. And yeah, John Jones is the baddest, in my opinion, the baddest human in combat sports ever.
Ooh, John Jones. That's badass. That is fucking badass. Look at that card. That's a very special card. It's like the king. That's nasty. Greatest fighter in the world. Greatest. Ruben pulls this deck out of his ass. Greatest Are you kidding me right now? He's got a John Jones card that looks like a king, and read the next one. You've recently said John Jones goes into a room with somebody, he's the only one coming out. Right. All right. Look at the next one. How about a Dustin Poirier autograph?
Last thing I wanted to ask you is, how much of it do you think in his case is mental? Like, he's a guy, when he focuses, he seems like he raises it up even a higher level than he is, when he's, doing whatever else he does. When he said he didn't train for Gus and he fought a great fight, but then when he does focus, he seems like against DC, he brought it up another level. Do you think that mental aspect of his game could get him higher and bring him to another level in his in the sport?
I don't know if there is another level. I think he is the level. He's the level. I mean, I've heard stories that I don't know if they're true or not true. I don't know what's true or not true anymore these days. But if the stories are true that I've heard of John Jones in the past when he was the dominant light heavyweight champion, wow. Stories of not training and partying too much and just showing up here and fighting these incredible fights and beating the absolute best in the world. And even if you look at him tonight, he's had 3 years to put on the weight. A lot of people are saying, I don't know, he looks soft. What if this, that, and, blah, blah, blah. Cyril Gahn is a monster in great physical shape and everything else. John Jones went in there and just treated him like he was a little kid. So I think he is the level. I don't know if there's any other level higher than John Jones.
Right? And when you talk about truly right now in Islam, I love you, Islam and everything. The fact that John Jones is number 2 on the pound for pound list is fucking, it just goes to show how fucking stupid the media votes on that.
Yeah.
Then it just goes to show you that they have no fucking idea. They know nothing about this fucking sport. John Jones has never lost a fight ever. And when you talk about what it really means to be pound for pound, you know, Volkanovski moved up and it was a very fucking close fight the first time. John Jones moved up and absolutely fucking decimated the greatest heavyweight that was out there right now. He doesn't go for that fucking arm bar. He beats Francis Ngannou and becomes the heavyweight champion. John Jones walked through him like it was fucking nothing. And when you really think about what pound for pound means, John Jones is the pound for pound best.
Did you get the feeling that he was negotiating in good faith or just really didn't want to be here at all?
I don't know. No, I mean, I doubt he'd just hang out for 2 years and continue to negotiate. And, you know, I don't know. I don't think he thought the John Jones fight would really happen. That's what I think. I think he didn't think that would really come to fruition, but it did. John Jones was literally ready to fight anybody. He didn't care who it was. And we could have done a fight with John back in, you know, October, November, December. And we kept, you know, we kept trying to get this deal done with Francis. And then finally it just, you know, we got to the realization that it wasn't going to happen. I think he doesn't want to take the risk. You're going in against John Jones, the best of all time.
Throughout the years, you've been pretty vocal in saying that your belief that John is arguably the greatest of all time. If John wins the heavyweight title and racks up a few title defenses, is the debate going to be over?
Yeah, I really haven't run into anybody who's really debated it much, but if there is any debate out there, that would definitely be the end of it. I mean, realistically, when you look at John's career, he's undefeated. He should be 27-0 right now. He won that fight. That fight should have been a stoppage, not a DQ. You know, the one drives me crazy. It must definitely drive him crazy. So he's undefeated. And if you look at the people that he went through, you know, to win the title, defend the title, it's very impressive. And it's undeniable that he's the greatest of all time.
Thank you.
When you watch the video of him and Cormier, and they don't know that they're live being filmed.
Oh, my God.
And Cormier says, I had to come over there and spit in your fucking face right now. And John Jones says, I would fucking kill you. I'm not saying I would fucking kill you. John Jones has like German Shepherd dogs that that do all the attack shit, shoots guns. John Jones has a very fucking dark side to him, right? And when you talk about who the baddest motherfucker in the world is,
I like how your example of how bad he is.
You put
his two dogs.
I'm just telling you, John Jones during the craziness
of all the things that he has. He's got German Shepherds. This guy's in
but he's that guy.
German Shepherds.
You know what I mean? He's that fucking guy. He's not just fucking like when all the craziness was going on during the pandemic and everybody was rioting and all this shit was going on.
He was ready.
Do you know that John Jones was like downtown, like ripping spray paint cans out of kids' hands and fuck up my town.
Maintaining order.
I'll beat your fucking ass. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Like, John Jones is the fucking baddest dude to ever be involved in combat.
To move up to heavyweight 3 years away.
Listen, anybody deny this guy is the GOAT anymore? I don't think anybody would deny it. Not only is he the greatest light heavyweight ever, he looks like the greatest heavyweight ever too. So, I mean, there were a couple of interviews leading up to this fight where he was saying, I'm going to make this look easy. And I thought that was a silly thing to say. The guy is unfucking believable, man. He really is.
I never forget when he claimed the light heavyweight title that you kind of mentioned at the time. You were a little worried about him and how he was going to be in his career and what was going to happen. What do you think now that he's your heavyweight champion? I mean, do you feel like he's a new guy at this point, or you still have concerns about what happened?
You know, let's just put it this way. I mean, John Jones, there's no doubt that John Jones is special. He's the greatest of all time. He's undefeated. He's never lost a fight ever in the UFC. He's fought all the best competition out there. But dealing with him is like dealing with an artist, is the best way to explain it. And I don't know what's going to happen from here on out. You know, I'm just happy we got to see what we saw tonight. It just, and many of us that have been in the game for a long time, some of you might disagree, some of you might agree. I'm a big believer in ring rust and what it does to you. We didn't even get to see any ring rust. Who knows if there was any ring rust tonight? He just went in there and literally made it look like nothing, like it was the easiest thing in the world for him to do. He's a total freak of nature, and he's the best ever.
Joe Rogan brought up the idea of Stipe at International Fight Week. Is that something that you guys have kicked around, or do you feel like that could be the plan?
I don't know when, but he's definitely fighting Stipe. Oh, and the other thing that you measure is, you know, when you said dominance, it's true. If you're this guy that has unbelievable power and you're just going in and you're just fucking knocking everybody out and nobody's ever pulled you into the deep water before, that was when my opinion of Jon Jones started to change. Gustafsson took him into the deep water. Gustafsson hit him with some shit he'd never been hit with. Gustafsson tested him and put Jon Jones in a place where I bet if you sat down and interviewed Jon Jones, going into the deep rounds of that, Jon Jones thought he was going to die. You know what I'm saying?
And he's willing to go there.
And he kept going. He was willing to do whatever it took to win that fight. Jon Jones, most of the people that cover this sport know nothing about the sport. They're actually horrendous. And they don't know anything about the sport, and they definitely don't know anything about the business of the sport. But if Jon Jones beats Stipe, then Aspinall,
so he should. So if he beats Stipe, he beats Aspinall, he should just retire because there's nothing else left for him to prove.
There's nothing for him to prove now. He already moved up to heavyweight,
right,
and walked through
Cyril Gane. I mean, it
Francis Ngannou barely made it through Cyril Gane.
Yeah.
If Cyril Gane doesn't go for that submission,
right,
Cyril Gane wins that fight. Jon Jones walked through him.
He did.
Like he was nothing. Jon Jones has nothing to prove now. You know what I mean? I saw Jon arguing with fans on Instagram the other day. Jon Jones has nothing to argue about. Jon Jones has nothing to prove anymore. But the fact that he's still here and still wants to, you know, he's going to come out and fight Stipe, and the fact that he could fight Aspinall, it's unbelievable. He will not truly be appreciated until he's gone.
What makes him so good?
You know, he's just, if you look at that family, you know,
Athlete.
two brothers that are great NFL players, you know, both been to the Super Bowl, and Jon Jones, light heavyweight champion of the world, and could fight at heavyweight too. Just a very gifted, talented family. And there were questions about Jon Jones earlier in his career. You know, when you're the guy that hands out the beatings, but has never really taken one.
Right.
We never knew if Jon Jones had what it takes to dig down deep to come back. The first Gustafsson fight, we found out that Jon Jones is that guy. So, yeah, I don't know what it is that makes him, other than he's an incredible athlete and he just has that thing that makes you a great fighter.
And is that what most fighters probably, if they were honest, would admit?
I don't know. I think Jon Jones is one of those guys that isn't going to really be appreciated till he's gone.
And then everybody's going to go, holy shit.
But the guy's never lost a fight.
Yeah.
He's the youngest champion ever in UFC history. I think he was 23. He's in his 30s now.
Yeah.
And he's fought fucking everybody. And he's never lost.
Yeah. And in no way trying to diminish John's accomplishments, but like, you know,
but
he's fought once in the last however many years. Islam's fighting multiple times a year, defending. So like, at what point does activity outweigh, John's?
Beautiful. I like that you asked that question. Let's talk about activity. 3 years off. Nobody, not even Ali, nobody's ever come from 3 years off and looked the same. Jon Jones walked through the heavyweight, the number one guy in the heavyweight division, like it was nothing, with 3 years off. Yeah. Jon Jones is the best ever. Ever. And when I say ever, I mean in any combat sport. He's the best ever. You throw Jon Jones in a room with anybody, Jon Jones walks out of the room.
John's saying he's fighting Stipe November 9th in New York. Is that
I love it.
Yeah, nothing's official yet.
So the Pereira fight, you think, because Pereira, I mean, the punching power that he possessed,
Pereira's amazing. I think Jon Jones walks through everybody, man. When Jon Jones gets his hands on you, you're in trouble.
What makes him so unique? Because there are a lot of guys that can grapple. There's a lot of guys that can submit you. There's a lot of guys that can stand. What makes Jon Jones so unique?
Jon Jones has a great chin. John Jones is good anywhere the fight goes. And John Jones is a killer. He's a killer. John Jones doesn't go in and try to squeak out, decisions.
I think that's what you love most about him. You don't like guys trying to wrestle and just try to get
It's not even that. He's the best. And there is a dark side to John Jones.
Wow.
Well, look at the when him and Cormier were in that interview.
Yeah.
And they thought that the cameras were off.
Right.
And they start talking to each other back and forth. And Cormier's like, you're a piece of shit. I'd spit in your face right now. And John Jones is like, and I'd kill you. You know, I'd kill you, right? Like, we're not talking about fighting. I'd kill you. And then John Jones, the stuff that's gone on in his personal life, when all the nuttiness was going on during COVID and people were rioting and all that shit, John Jones was walking around the streets of his town, like smacking spray paint cans out of kids' hands and being like, get your fucking ass home.
Wow.
Stop fucking up my town. And he can go down the history books as the greatest ever. I mean, it's that simple, but it's up to him.
John Jones, Anderson Silva, George St. Pierre, Demetrius Johnson, any of those names, who's the greatest of all time in your opinion?
John Jones, without a doubt. I mean, I just, if you look at what this guy's been through, what he does, the stuff he was doing while he was dominating, the guy was doing drugs and drinking and doing all this stuff while he was dominating. Imagine if this guy was clean all the time and just focused on training. He's unbelievable.
It's just, you do what you can do. You focus on certain areas. You build the business, and then it's all out of your hands once that cage door shuts. It's up to them. It's not up to us, and we just have to go with whatever happens. Cyril Gane is from France, but he's still one of the best heavyweights in the world. It's just John Jones is so much better than everybody else. It's crazy.
What do you want for John for the rest of his career? Like, do you want the Aspinall fight? Do you want?
I mean, listen, what I want and what's going to happen are two totally different things. I don't know. That's the other thing with dealing with John Jones. You don't know what's going to happen, but he fights Stipe Miocic, the greatest of all time versus the greatest heavyweight. You see how that plays out if John Jones wins and he fights Aspinall, and if he beats Aspinall, it's just like,
what do you say? Can't say anything else.
You don't. I'll go toe to toe with anybody for the rest of my life. I'm already saying it now that he's the greatest ever. When you think about all the greatest boxers and all these guys that did shit,
who's your number one boxer? By the way,
you get in a room this big, John Jones can fucking grab you.
That's it.
And once he puts his fucking hands on you, you're done, man. And if you're in a scenario where it's only one guy's walking out of the room and this guy gets on top of you, you're dropping fucking. Let's not even talk about illegal shit that you can do.
Yeah.
You do not want to fuck with John Jones.
He's got German Shepherds.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it seemed like we thought that John was going to come back in December and fight Ngannou. Did John Jones agree to fight Ngannou at that time when everybody thought that was?
100%. John Jones wanted to fight Ngannou. You guys are going to have plenty of opportunity to talk to John, and John's very confident that he would have ripped through Francis Ngannou. That's how he feels. That was a easy fight for him.
Dana, just mentioning Tom Aspinall there, I know you mentioned that he has the potential to be the UK's best ever fighter, but Michael Bisping mentioned yesterday during a Q&A panel, he said he can see Tom going on to dominate the heavyweight division for years to come and go down as the greatest MMA fighter of all time. Do you see him capable of achieving that?
Yes. I mean, this guy, to put that on him right now, he obviously has the ability to dominate the heavyweight division. What he did to Curtis Blades tonight, I mean, let's be honest here. Curtis Blades is not a guy you walk right through. He walked through him tonight like it was nothing. So there's no doubt about that the guy's got the talent. But when you start talking, he won this fight tonight, he could be the greatest of all time. Again, you know how I feel about John Jones. It's just, you got some big shoes to fill, and you got a lot of people to wreck, before you even start talking about even being within John Jones' universe, in my opinion.
And it breaks my heart because he beat DC, and DC is one of the greatest of all time.
That's the thing, too. And I believe that DC doesn't get the credit he deserves because of the John Jones thing. When you look at DC and what he's accomplished, right? And John Jones beat him twice.
Yeah.
It's undeniable. You can hate all you want. John Jones is the greatest of all time.
I'm going to move on because there's a lot of questions and not a lot of time, but I don't hate John Jones, and I agree with you. The only disagreement we have is that he hasn't been active in 15 months and he's fought one time in 4+ years.
Why was it? If he's just sitting around, spending money.
But that's why you have interim champions, isn't it? Isn't that why you have interim champions?
But he was training, and he got injured. He was trying to fight. It's not like he's not trying. Listen, if John Jones is just fucking hanging out and doesn't want to fight, I would agree with you 100%. That's not the case.
Let's talk about Aspinall because, I mean, I think in a way he's come out of nowhere, right? I mean, obviously when he came into the UFC, he looked good and everybody was high on him. But all of a sudden now you're seeing, this finishing ability. He's 15 for 15 in finishes. He's putting away elite guys. I mean, what he did to Volkov, with the arm bar, and then Curtis Blades the other day. I mean, what do you see in Aspinall? And do you look at Aspinall as a guy that could, let's assume John Jones retires after Stipe, could Aspinall kind of, carry that baton and run forward with it?
And you're absolutely right, Kevin. And there's not enough not enough credit being given for this. What he did to Curtis Blades, the way that he did it, and how fast he did it.
Right.
There's no doubt. I mean, this guy is a scary dude, and he looks like the future of the heavyweight division, right? But at the same time, he's working his way up. He's climbing up the ladder, and everybody's like, he deserves this, and he deserves that, and he doesn't deserve anything. He looks great, and he looks like he's going to be the guy. You got Stipe and John who have paid their dues. They've been here forever. They fought everybody. They fought all the fights that you could possibly fight. These guys deserve to fight each other. Whoever wins that fight, I think that they owe it to Aspinall to fight him and give him the opportunity that they've been given. When you look at John Jones and Stipe, they beat all the guys, right? And you're either going to be the guy that's going to cement your legacy forever, or you're going to hand the torch off the way the torch was handed off to you guys by all the guys that came before you.
The other, can you put John in perspective in terms of anybody out there that could potentially beat him? When you look at his overall game, Gustafsson gave in that close fight. The word out there is that maybe John didn't really train seriously for that bout. But can you kind of put him in some kind of perspective? And what do you think could motivate him after he's beaten? Yet another great
He
challenger.
says he wants to be the greatest ever. If you want to be the greatest ever, you have to continue to be motivated and to come in and perform like he did tonight and every other night since he's started. He has so many weapons, so many tools. But now we've seen twice. If you want to bring a dogfight to Jones, Jones can do that too. And that's one of the most important things. The question is, what happens to a guy when he gets into deep water? It's fun being a fighter when you're the guy kicking everybody's ass. But when you start getting some back, that's when you find out, who's a real champion. And John Jones has proven it twice.
John Jones is a big gun guy.
Yes,
Shoots.
I've seen.
He's got the dogs that are trained to, you know what I mean?
Yes.
John Jones is a bad dude.
Do you ever worry about him in a face-off? Because you said he has a dark side. We see it in the ring.
The MGM Grand lobby. People are checking into their hotel. We're doing the weigh-ins in the lobby. Him and Cormier, John Jones goes after him. They get close, and Cormier pushes him back, and Jones goes after him. Big fist fight right in the lobby of the MGM Grand. John Jones is the baddest dude to ever do it.
You and I have talked a long time about how good John would have been if he didn't get in all that trouble or anything. Now that you see him, even though he's older now than he was before, do you think he can be even better as a heavyweight than he was as a light heavyweight?
I don't think that you and I ever really argued about how good he could be. He was. He is. He's always been the great. I mean, through all the things that me and Jones have been through, in both of our careers here, I've never denied that this guy's the best ever. The question is how big would he be right now? And I say, I mean, you see, he's got the biggest heavyweight fight of all time, one of the top grossing. But Eric was just telling me tonight this is going to be one of the biggest social media events we've ever done, et cetera, et cetera. The question is, this guy he should be on Nike commercials. Those are the things when you talk about how big and how great John Jones could have been had he not had the personal problems. Those are the questions that we'll never know.
And you look at him now, do you think, given his attitude that he has, he seems so grateful for things, he seems in great condition, that he can go on a long time, right? I mean, who knows what he wants to do, but do you see in him that he has a number of fights in him if he chooses to do that?
I don't know. This is what you get when you're dealing with John Jones. I know he wants to fight Stipe. He wants to fight Stipe. He's interested in that fight. If that fight happens, awesome. We get to see this talented freak, perform again. If not, I don't know. Who knows? I told Hunter, charter a jet and send him right back to New Mexico right now. Let's get him home safe and sound.
Jones has already served 2 previous suspensions for failed drug tests. What makes you keep wanting to bring him back?
Yeah, well, listen, he served his sentences. He's done his time. And on this issue here, he's been cleared by USADA. He's been cleared by, the experts. And those are the people that I listen to. These are the people that regulate us and oversee us. So he served his time and he's back.
Okay, so just out of curiosity, you did still have to move the fight because of this. So from your perspective, at what point is enough enough?
Well, that was the reality is this fight, he didn't do anything wrong this time. He did not fail a drug test.
I do want to get your thoughts on the logistics of all of this in a second, but first, Gustafsson did say yesterday Jones is a cheater, and whatever he's saying to explain this latest issue is quote, nonsense. What do you make of those comments?
All the experts are saying he did not cheat. He's been cleared. He did not fail a drug test. So the fight goes on.
Okay.
And did I mention he's got like German Shepherds and shit like that? He's like all into that shit too. This dude will fucking kill you every way that you can possibly be fucking killed. Okay? That's just it.
Wow. Yeah. Do you remember the first time you heard the name John Jones? And did you know he was a bad man the first time you saw him?
No. But once he started fighting, he's a young kid, comes in, starts fighting. It was when, I'm trying to think of the fight now that happened. I can't fucking remember the first one. I talked about this about a year ago. But then when I really noticed John Jones, we already knew that he was tough and a star, but he was walking through people. And a lot of times you'll see these guys that walk through guys, then once they get tested, and they get pushed and adversity comes, they break. Then came the fight with, Jesus Christ, Swedish kid.
Gustafsson.
Oh, yeah.
Alexander
Gustafsson, right?
Yeah.
So him and Gustafsson fight, and Gustafsson takes him into the fucking deep water, and he's hitting him with fucking elbows and all this fucking shit. And now that we look back on John Jones, we know the real shit that was going on. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
If you want to fuck with John Jones.
John Jones, what's going to happen for him on Saturday? He needs to win.
Does it need to be convincing?
And listen, every time John Jones wins, it's convincing. I mean, the guy is a freak of nature. He's incredibly talented. The question is, what happens when he leaves the octagon that night and goes home for the next 3 months? I mean, that's what you have to worry about with John Jones. It's not like, I guarantee you, I can guarantee you this. The fight with him and Gustafsson is going to be unbelievable.
Right.
The question is, and what I can't guarantee you, is what's going to happen when John Jones leaves that arena and goes home.
Was it a requirement for John Jones to fight for the title for his debut at heavyweight?
No, this is what John wanted. John's been talking about this forever. So this wasn't our thing. This was a John thing.
I mean, but Jones would have came in even at heavyweight. Even
no, John was willing to fight anybody. He was willing to fight anybody. So you're asking me, would he only fight heavyweight for the title? No. He was willing to fight anybody. He didn't care. He literally didn't care who it was on the roster, and not for the title. He was willing to fight anybody.
He was partying and doing fucking crazy shit.
Yeah.
Through his entire camps.
Yeah.
He was doing shit that most people couldn't get up and go to fucking work the next day, let alone get into a fucking 5-round title fight with the baddest people in the world. That's what he was doing at this time. And he fucking gets through that Gustafsson fight. And that's when I really started to say, this dude might be one of the best.
Special.
It's undeniable. You can hate all you want. John Jones is the greatest of all time. Yeah. John Jones is the best ever. Ever. And when I say ever, I mean in any combat sport. He's the best ever. You throw John Jones in a room with anybody, John Jones walks out of the room. He's a total freak of nature, and he's the best ever.
You don't like guys trying to wrestle and just try to get
through that. He's the best. And there is a dark side to John Jones.
Wow.
You're going in against John Jones, the best of all time. You know, to win the title, defend the title, it's very impressive, and it's undeniable that he's the greatest of all time.
Thank you.
But when you start talking, he won this fight tonight, he could be the greatest of all time. Again, you know how I feel about John Jones. It's just, you got some big shoes to fill, and you got a lot of people to wreck, you know, before you even start talking about even being within John Jones' universe, in my opinion.
John Jones is the fucking baddest dude to ever be involved in combat.
Listen, every time John Jones wins, it's convincing. I mean, the guy is a freak of nature. He's incredibly talented.
John Jones walked through him like it was fucking nothing. And when you really think about what pound for pound means, John Jones is the pound for pound best.
Absolutely, positively the pound for pound best fighter in the world. Probably the greatest fighter of all time in any sport. When you talk about who's the baddest dude in the world, you put two guys in a room and who walks out, John Jones walks out of the fucking room every time. No question about it. Anybody who thinks John Jones isn't the pound for pound best fighter in the world should never be discussing fighting ever. Boom! Period. End of story. And he can go down the history books as the greatest ever. Yeah, he's unbelievable. Yeah, John Jones is the baddest, in my opinion, the baddest human in combat sports ever. You know, let's just put it this way. I mean, John Jones, there's no doubt that John Jones is special. He's the greatest of all time. He's undefeated. He's never lost a fight ever in the UFC. He's fought all the best competition out there.
Pound for pound, who's the best fighter?
The best fighter ever is John Jones. Hands down, no doubt about it, no debating.
So you think if John Jones is in a room with any other fighter, he's the one pound for pound making it out?
Yeah, 100%. You put anybody in the room with John Jones, he walks out every time.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess you're right.
Nobody's been able to beat John Jones. But when you talk about
John Jones is the nastiest dude ever in the history.
putting two guys in a room, who comes out, John Jones has the tools to beat everybody.
John Jones is the baddest fighter to ever live. Ever. In any combat sport. The fact that John Jones is number 2 on the pound for pound list is fucking, it just goes to show how fucking stupid.
It's just John Jones is so much better than everybody else. It's crazy. For the heavyweight championship of the world, John Jones, the greatest mixed martial artist of all time.
John Jones is undefeated, never lost, and he went through murderer's row.
For anybody to call Islam the pound for pound best fighter in the world when John Jones is still fighting is nuts and shouldn't be ranking in the pound for pound or doing any of the rankings ever.
I'm telling you right now, when you talk about who the baddest man on the planet is, two guys get locked in a room, who's walking out? It's fucking John Jones all day, every time.
He's beat the who's who. He's cleaned out the division. He's breaking records. And if this continues, yeah, probably the greatest ever.
He's never been beat. He destroyed everybody at light heavyweight, which at the time was the toughest weight class in the company, in the sport. And then he moved up to heavyweight, won easily at heavyweight. I've never denied that this guy's the best ever. You know, when you talk about who the baddest man is on the planet is, when you talk about that, the real definition of what that means, you throw two guys in a room and who comes out? Yeah. Okay? That's the baddest man on the planet. And it is hard to not say that John Jones is that guy right now.
John Jones is a whole nother. John Jones is, I consider John Jones the greatest combat fighter of all time. when you talk about the Alis and the this and the that.
Oh, and that
John Jones has never lost a fight ever. He's fought all the baddest dudes in the world. And then when you think about what pound for pound rankings really mean, he moved it up to heavyweight and destroyed the best guy in the world. As long as John Jones is still fighting, active, and in the rankings, yeah, nobody's pound for pound best fighter in the world.
The greatest of all time is John Jones.
John Jones. John Jones.
John Jones. He's still John Jones is undefeated.
John Jones is the #1 pound for pound fighter in the world, period, end of story.
John Jones is the pound for pound best fighter in the world and the greatest fighter fucking ever, period, end of story. You're going to fight arguably the greatest fighter of all time.
To move up to heavyweight 3 years away.
Listen, anybody deny this guy is the GOAT anymore? I don't think anybody would deny it. Not only is he the greatest light heavyweight ever, he looks like the greatest heavyweight ever. No matter what you think of John Jones, he's the fucking best ever, and he's the pound for pound best fighter in the world. And he's the pound for pound best fighter in the world.
Yeah. The baddest dude to ever walk the face of the earth in combat sports. He cements his legacy as the greatest fighter of all time.
John Jones, there's no debate. Nobody can debate who's the greatest of all time. It's absolutely positively John Jones. He's never lost. No, he's never been beat in the octagon ever.
You cannot deny that while John Jones is active, he is the greatest fighter in the world.
The greatest fighter to ever live, ever, is fucking John Jones. When you look at John Jones has never lost a fight. You know,
my follow-up question was going to be Shaq at the peak of his powers. I've heard the way you speak of John Jones. How would that have gone?
Not good.